Hi everyone. I wanted to provide you with an answer key for your social studies classwork today. You needed to read Document D of the Alexander the Great DBQ. Before I jump to those answers, I wanted to kind of walk through some of this, make sure that you're doing your highlighting. So let me just go back in my DBQ packet. And you can see that I have my two buckets. I have great and I have not great. I made my great bucket purple and my not great bucket green. So now I'm going to go back to Document D. And I'm going to read over this and just tell you a little bit about what I found, and then you can compare it to what you found today. So Document D deals with legends. Now remember, because it is a legend, that means that it's not necessarily true. Legends were usually made to explain the way something is, or to possibly give you some character traits about a well-known hero within the culture. So the first legend in Document D is the legend of the helmet. The army was crossing a desert of sand. The sun was already blazing down upon them, but they were struggling on under the necessity of reaching water, which was still far away. Alexander, like everyone else, was tormented by thirst, but he was nonetheless marching on foot at the head of his men. This reminds me of Salva walking through the desert. It was all he could do to keep going, but he did so, and the result, as always, was that the men were better able to endure their misery when they saw that it was equally shared. I'm going to stop there because this makes me feel as though maybe Alexander really was great. And the reason I say that is because it says that the men were better able to endure their misery when they saw it was equally shared. In other words, it's not that Alexander had all of these supplies to keep him healthy through the desert. He was going through the exact same thing as all of his men following him. So perhaps this kind of motivated them that they really were a team and they could accomplish this together. I'm going to keep reading. As they toiled on, a party of light infantry, which had gone off looking for water, found some. Just a wretched little trickle collected in a shallow gully. They scooped up with difficulty what they could and hurried back to Alexander. Then, just before they reached him, they tipped the water into a helmet and gave it to him. Alexander, with a word of thanks for the gift, took the helmet and, in full view of his troops, poured the water on the ground. So extraordinary was the effect of this action that the water wasted by Alexander was as good as a drink for every man in the army. I'm going to take my purple highlighter, because remember, purple is the color that I assigned for evidence that supports that Alexander really was great, and I'm going to highlight that last line there. And I'm just going to take my pen or pencil, and I'm going to annotate the text to explain why I highlighted that. This act of teamwork motivated the men to keep going. In a way, this gave them strength, knowing their leader was enduring the same pain as them. Okay. Let's move on to the second legend. The legend of the hat band. Alexander was himself steering the trireme, which is a warship with oars, when a strong gust of wind fell on his broad-brimmed Macedonian hat and the band that encircled it. The hat, being rather heavy, fell into the water. However, the band was carried along by the wind and was caught by one of the reeds growing near the tomb of one of the ancient kings. One of the sailors swam off towards the band and snatched it from the reed. But he did not carry it in his hands, because it would get wet while he was swimming. He therefore put it around his own head and brought it to the king. So this shows that, once again, the king must have been well respected, because he jumped in the water, he swam. He didn't want it to get wet, so he put it on his head so that when he was treading water, the band wouldn't actually get wet. Most of the biographers of Alexander say that the king gave him a talent, which was a reward more than $10,000, as a reward for his zeal. Then he ordered his head to be cut off because the prophets had explained that he should not allow the head that had worn the royal headband to be safe. So let's think about this. I'm definitely getting my green highlighter ready, because remember, green is the bucket I made for not great. And I'm going to highlight this last part here where it says that he ordered his head to be cut off. So according to this legend, as a way of thanking this man who went and got the band for him, he gave him a monetary, meaning money, reward. And this reward was not even able to be enjoyed by this man because he then cut off his head. So it says this is coming from the prophets. But again, we talked about how Alexander thought of himself as a god. So perhaps he felt like his pride was in question. How dare you wear something that belongs to me? I am a god, and now it's been on your head. Therefore, you must lose your head. I definitely think that this supports that he is not as great as legend might say. And I'm just going to take my pen, and I'm just going to write a little note to myself. Supports his godlike pride. Okay? Then you have to do the document analysis questions. In the first story, why did Alexander pour the water on the ground? In the second story, why did Alexander give the soldier who saved the hat band a reward? Why did he then order the man's head cut off? How can you use these legends to argue that Alexander was great? How can you use these legends to argue that Alexander was not great? By tomorrow morning, you will see my answer key revealed on the slideshow so that you can go and check these document analysis questions. And I hope that by kind of hearing me read through some of the documents and guide you through highlighting and annotating, you'll be able to successfully analyze this document tomorrow on a document analysis sheet. Talk to you soon, guys.